Welcome back. In this week's episode, we discuss the collapse of the American empire, sexy summer camp, and how the Democrats just want you to buy an electric car. I'm Luke.
And I'm Rody.
And this is the Right Side of the Compass podcast. Hey, Rody, how's it going? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was great. I'm alive, so, I can't complain.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I could complain, and I actually will. You'll hear all about it.
Screw you guys. I'm going to complain.
Well, no, I'm not so much complaining as I'm allowing you to partake in my dental journey with me. So, you see...
'cause you lost all your wisdom.
No, only half of them. I still have my top wisdom teeth. But you see, I thought I was out of the woods because I got rid of 2 of my wisdom teeth, and they drilled into 3 of my teeth. They found 3 root canals. And so they were in the middle of dealing with my last root canal. And for whatever reason, on Tuesday, the dentist was dealing with it. And then after I left the dentist, it started hurting. And so I started taking painkillers, ibuprofen, whatever. By Friday, I'm in excruciating pain, okay? So I go to the dentist, and he prescribes me some more antibiotics and some more painkillers. So the entire Sabbath, I'm sitting there. I can't eat out of the right side of it. Yeah, I think it's if it's my right. So I can't eat out of the right side of my mouth. I feel like garbage because my mouth is on fire. It was just terrible. And then I got a cold on Sabbath as well. Like I woke up with a cold. So if it sounds,
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, I'm having a pretty rough time of it actually. Like I think I've gotten out of the woods and there's something else. Yeah,
They say, man, plan, God laughs.
Oh God is laughing so hard right now. Oh my God. But yeah, the point is that if I sound a little bit, I guess, stuffy over the recording, any stuffier than usual, it's because I have this cold. So anyways, we want to continue to discuss thought-provoking issues and having a good time doing so, but we need your help, dear listener. Smash that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. In addition, we are available on the platforms your favorite podcasts are available on. You can reach out to us by sliding into our DMs at the Right Side of the Compass on Instagram or by commenting on the video. Anyways, let's get this show on the road.
Let's do this.
Exactly. Bingo. All right. So let's talk about the fall of Washington. I want this to model the fall of Rome. I kind of want you to get the idea of like how we're talking about this.
All right. So the fall of Washington, what does that mean?
It means that, America is in a very big decline. I think a lot of people are very hopeful that, America, like after 2 years of Joe Biden, we're going to vote in all these Republicans into office, and we're going to, then we're going to vote in Donald Trump again, and he's going to take revenge on all the enemies of America, and we're going to go back to being the kings of the universe. But I don't know if I'm as hopeful as y'all are. I hope you guys are right, the ones that are very positive, but I'm not so sure. And that's because I have a background in history. And to have a background in history means to be perpetually a pessimist. That's what being, because you see all the bad things.
Doesn't sound fun.
Well, I never said I was a very fun guy. I'm just laughing while the world burns, but I'm not exactly a fun guy. But yeah, so let's talk about Rome, because a lot of people, it's one of the 2 historical events that people know about. So it's kind of interesting to talk about Rome, even though, because it's not like unfamiliar to people. So let's clarify. Rome was the seat of power for hundreds of years in the ancient world, right? It gave us some of the most. First of all, it gave us the American government. A lot of people falsely credit the American government with the Greek system, but the reality is that it's much more based on the Roman Republic than it is based on Athenian democracy. And that is because the Roman Republic was actually very good at incorporating the best parts of the different Greek city-state models and putting them together into like a more, I guess, into a kind of synergistic way, right? So you got the government comes from Rome, right? You have one of the world's greatest religions, Christianity, comes from Rome. You got some of the greatest philosophers come from Rome. Rome was not like a simple thing. And and many times we look to Rome to the point where, even throughout history, even after Rome fell, there was always someone trying to claim the title of Rome. There was always some empire trying to claim the Roman Empire, whether it was, the Eastern Empire, or whether it was the German city states, and in the Middle Ages, someone was always claiming the title to be the Holy Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Emperor. The Catholic Church claims to be the successor to the Roman Empire.
The
So
Ottoman
it's
Empire
what?
also. What the Ottoman Empire?
No, that's a little bit different.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
no, that's just not. Uh, you're not. Nice
I
try.
know I'm not the history buff. You are, so
You need to study more history, man. It's you need to do that.
I
Like,
hated history class.
well, history is actually kind of interesting, and
No, it's interesting, and I love learning history. Not in a class setting, though. When I need to take tests and memorize dates, you lost me.
no, I get that. I get that. Yeah, that's not fun. But anyways, let's talk about the thing I like about history is that it's very like if you're it's very good for analyzing, but it's also cause and effect. It's very like most history you can kind of see something happening and then you can see the result of it, and it's very like I suppose hindsight is 2020, but that's what makes history interesting, right? It's like a story, right? But it's sometimes what we do in real life is a lot more interesting than anything someone can come up with. But anyways, let's talk about Rome because Rome, like all great civilizations, had they started out with humble beginnings and they became something really, really great. But all great things come to an end. And why did Rome come to an end?
Why did Rome end? Because the other smaller states weren't getting along with each other.
That's not quite. What essentially it boils down to 3 points, right? You've got the damage to the social fabric of Rome and the Roman Empire. That was number one. The Roman Empire became too big, right? And we see this because it split up initially into the Eastern and Western empires. And then we also see letting the barbarians in through the gates, which is essentially
Yeah, what does that mean?
it means that, they have all these different groups that are not necessarily as invested in Rome as the Romans were, right? And I'll
So
get to
like
that in a
less
minute.
patriotic,
Less patriotic.
essentially.
They're more. You have more of these little, groups, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you see a lot. It becomes too big, it becomes divided, and it eventually collapses under being a bloated mess. Um, and so let's talk about that. The damage to the social fabric. Now, if you're talking about the Romans themselves, the Romans had two major camps, right? You had the pagans, right, who believed in the old ancient uh, Roman gods, like Apollo. No, was Apollo Greek or I feel like he was. I feel like he was Greek.
Like Jupiter and
Jupiter, Saturn, Mars. The
the
Sol
planets.
Invictus, the planets, right? We call it right. Um, I'm not as familiar with the Roman pantheon as I probably should be. That means I haven't official. That means I'm not as good at history as I would like to be. But yeah, we're talking about the ancient Roman pantheon. And then you have Christianity, which was by the time the Roman Empire fell, was already a very, very powerful religion, right? So think about it from that perspective, right? You have these two warring factions, right? You got the pagans who want to preserve Rome and its religion and its tradition, its history, and then you've got this new group of people who have this syncretic cult that comes from some preacher in the Middle East, and they have very different views on the universe, right? You have Constantine who converted to Christianity. I don't remember if it was Constantine, but I remember it was one of the Christian emperors who banned the Colosseum. Now the gladiator matches, rather, the gladiator matches were a big part of Roman culture, and I don't say this because the gladiators were the reason that the Romans fell, but rather to illustrate a point that you have these two different groups of people that have very different visions for what Rome needs to be, right? And then you have the scale of the empire became unmanageable. That's very obvious to see. It became a bloated mess. That's especially in the ancient world. You can't just have an unlimited empire. People always wanted to fashion themselves as rulers of the earth, but the reality is that you were only as good of a ruler as your bureaucracy allowed you to be, right? And we see throughout history that as empires got bigger, They eventually collapsed. They eventually fell. You had the Babylonians, they fell, and the Persians took over. And then the Persians were the big people, and the Greeks took them over. And the Greeks were conquered by the Romans. And the Greeks themselves, they got so big that they had to divide into multiple little empires, um, because of those problems. And there's always someone trying to come up with some neat little trick to figure out how to make an empire work. But the reality is empires fall apart because they're not always on the same page, right? And then letting the barbarians in through the gates. Of course, it's very, we're talking obviously about the Germanic tribes. It was the king of the Visigoths, Ottavasser, who deposed the last Western, or at least, according to tradition, the last Roman emperor in the West, Romulus Augustus. He deposed him, and he became just the ruler of the West. And that was really what people think of as like the end of Rome, right? The end of Rome as they knew it in antiquity. And the thing about the Germanic tribes is that whatever appreciation they had for Rome as a city, for its history and whatever, they were not Romans. They did not have the respect. They did not have the I don't want to say the reverence for Rome that perhaps the Romans did, because it's not their culture, it's not their society,
So
right?
like they let them like immigrate somewhat, as
Yeah,
you
they,
say.
they they tried to integrate them into part of the society, right? Like there were all sorts of alliances with the Visigoths, but the
Yeah.
reality is that if you're going to integrate the Visigoths, you need to integrate them all together, right? And so, but that ended up being like their undoing, because they allowed the Visigoths to keep their distinct culture while kind of trying to bring them into the empire, but that never works. Anyways, so let's talk about how this relates to America, right? The damage to the social fabric. Now, who are there's two, I would say, two main rival factions in the United States. Now, you might say it's the Republicans, Democrats. You might say it's the Christians versus the atheists. You might say it's the reasonable people versus the woke left. You might, whatever those two factions are. And I don't even know who those two factions are, to be honest, right? But the reality is there are these two factions. Broadly speaking, there are these two factions that are fighting over America, what America means, and who does America belong to, and what does America mean. And that social fabric you see is falling apart, right? When the city of Rome was destroyed, there were people on both sides of the argument. You had the pagans and you had the Christians. The Christians, claimed that the destruction of Rome was caused by the pagans, and that it was a punishment from God. And then you had the pagans who said that the Christians disturbed the moral order, and they allowed Rome to fall for that reason. And you can believe whoever you want to believe. I'm sure that everyone who's listening has their opinion on
But the
the.
point is that there was a divide, and that divide was what was the downfall.
Yeah, essentially everyone in the Western world is saying right now that diversity is our strength, but I'm not entirely convinced of that. I'm much more of the opinion that unity is our strength. If we're united together, that's where strength comes from. And you'll see that everywhere. Anytime you want to see strength, they typically preach unity. You go to a military, any competent military teaches unity. We're all in this together. That's really what it is. Diversity is asking to be divided, right? That's diversify, right? Because you're not, when you diversify your portfolio, you're sending some of your money here, you're sending some of your money there, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
like,
separating.
yeah, exactly. But and that may be a good strategy to do if you're dealing with money, but if you're dealing with a society, you kind of want everyone on the same page somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's there. Obviously, I think there are a few differences, when it comes to America and Rome, um, which I was, thinking about while you were discussing it. But I guess I'll first start off with the diversity thing. Well, I mean, you're right. There's good things and bad things with diversity. With diversity, you have different ideas from different places, and but at the same time, because you have different ideas from different places, sometimes those ideology, clashes with one another. So in that sense, then you're right. There is less unity, which like I want to come like down to like where there is some good to not having diversity, because then you have that feeling of belonging somewhere and having unity.
Right. So, for example, you go to Japan, right? You go to Japan, everyone is the same, right? And they do have this level of cohesion that you don't have in typical Western countries, and you'll see it, right? In countries where everyone feels like we're all the same people, they genuinely believe they're a nation state. you'll see a lot more, I guess, being at ease with strangers. I'm sure you've noticed this when you're around people that you think are your own, you're much more comfortable. And when you're around people that you think are the other, even if you don't mind being around the other, even if you don't think they're necessarily going to harm you, you're a little bit kind of reserved around them. There's a little bit of skepticism. There's a little bit of, you're not going to be the same chumminess with someone who you think is an other versus someone who you think is like an us group, like an in group.
Well, we could use the example of, you and me, we're Jewish, and we could use the example of Israel. Like, for me, when I was there is some form of, I was much more comfortable, you know, just walking up to a random stranger, or I would sometimes, get invited by, like, random people, like, to their houses, like, as a guest. Or there is some form of unity when you're with, the same type of people as you, and you feel that comfortable. Like, and the difference when I'm here in America, okay, is that, yeah, the person might be, nice and respectful, when I'm at the supermarket and groceries, like, oh, like, have a nice day, and the customer service, but you don't feel that, you don't. There's a separation there. There's a lack of community, and you're right, which is, I find, an issue with diversity, is that there is a feel of separation, and that you can't express yourself the same way you would with someone who comes from, the same background as you.
Right. And so the thing about American diversity, quote unquote, is we never called it diversity until very recently in the United States. But the thing is that in American, like, you're never going to get to a place where everyone is a carbon copy of each other. Right. I think very few places do that. And I think like if you go to the places that are the most like carbon copies of each other, they have their other problems. Right. So I'm not saying everyone needs to be the same, but what I mean by unity is that everyone needs to be like kind of with a similar understanding of the universe, right? So that's why when people say like tolerance and this that, typically they misunderstand the ancient Christian understanding of tolerance, right? Which was that as long as you believed in the Trinity, you were considered Christian, and you were to be tolerated in the United States by people who believed in the Trinity. Now, I don't have a problem with evolving standards of tolerance, but it needs to be based on something. You can't just tolerate anything, right?
Okay. What
Right?
do you mean by that?
It means that if you want to expand the definition of tolerance, which I'm totally okay with, right? It still needs to be based on a similar enough understanding of the universe, right? So for example, let's say you're in the 1800s, right? And you want to expand the definition of American tolerance, right? Okay. Well, what's the new standard going to be? How are you going to incorporate the old standard into a new standard? Are you going to say that anyone who believes in the Hebrew God is deserves tolerance? Are you going to say anyone who believes in one God? Anyone who believes in a Western religion? What's a Western religion? Like you need to answer these questions. You can't just include everyone, right? And that's what I think a lot of the West is doing. They're kind of swinging the other way. They're saying, "Oh, anyone deserves tolerance, regardless of who they are and what they believe." Right. So yeah, there's that. But then you also have the scale of the empire became unmanageable. Right. Let's get to the next thing. America has become very big, right? And I'm not just talking about the continental United States. I mean, that is big. That is 100% true. Like the big country of the United States is kind of big. But if you include the satellite states of the United States, things like NATO, the EU,
Yeah,
all those things,
the Western culture, essentially.
right? And Western kind of or American dominance, right? In the culture, both soft power and hard power, it has become a bit bloated, wouldn't you say? And it's being demonstrated by what's going on in Ukraine, right? The whole problem with Ukraine is that the Russians are sick and tired of NATO and the EU coming too close to the Eastern Bloc, which I'm not a supporter of the Eastern Bloc. I'm not saying I like the Eastern Bloc. Don't say I'm supporting Russia, because I'm not, right? I don't like Putin, but I will say this: not everyone wants to be free, and maybe a more sensible America would realize, hey, we should probably stop at Italy and leave the Eastern Bloc to the Ruskies, right? But that's not what happened, We kind of kept on pushing and pushing and pushing, and now the Russians are saying like, no, we're not going to do that, and now they want to team up with China, and now
And
they
now
want
they're
to
having enough and they're pushing back.
exactly bingo, and we see this. You showed me this video by Ray Dalio, or by this guy who watched a video by Ray Dalio because it was much shorter, and I don't have the patience to
Yeah,
sit for 43
so
minutes. Yeah.
I sent you a video from Graham Stephan who was talking about another video that Ray Dalio um, was saying about the reserve currencies and how America is, I mean, still the reserve currency of the world, but that is slowly on a decline because of China.
Right. So that's very interesting because you see that if the Americans had said, you know what, we're going to just be the reserve currency, maybe we're going to have our sphere of influence be like here, Western Europe, maybe the Monroe Doctrine. You know what the Monroe Doctrine is, right?
Remind me.
It's when the Americans said, I believe it was James Monroe, who said that everything in the Western Hemisphere is American affairs. Anyone from the Eastern Hemisphere who comes to interfere in the Western Hemisphere is going to be repelled violently because it is not their sphere. The Americans are America.
Fuck
That's
yeah,
bingo. You got it.
America.
I love that song, America. Yeah, but the United States has dominance in the Western Hemisphere, and that's the policy position in the United States up until today. By the way, people don't talk about this, but there's a reason why the Europeans don't go down south. There's a reason why no one has bothered to come, and that is because the Americans will defend the Western Hemisphere tooth and nail. So there's that. But the reality is that the American empire is going to get too big, and other people are saying like, oh, you could chip away at it, right? You could chip away at it.
Well, I mean, I think the differences between the Roman Empire and American Empire essentially is that technology, and because we have technology and communication is easier than ever, it makes it makes for the size of this empire much easier to um, to sustain, because instead of waiting a few days for a messenger to come and tell you the news about this town or that state or this issue or that issue, you just send a text or you just send an email. And so it's much easier to control the massive the size of the empire that America grew into.
Right, but I will say that the underlying issues with things becoming too big are ultimately that people don't get along. That's ultimately the issue, right? It is unmanageable, right? But it's unmanageable for many reasons. Things become too big, different people have different goals, and if you try to expand into different spheres of influence, you're going to get toppled, right?
I mean, that's what happened with the British Empire. They gave all their states independence because they didn't want to, bother with them anymore.
Right. And so you laugh at Britain because they retreated to an island the size of Michigan, but the reality is that they're doing okay. Right? They're doing okay. I think you would agree with that assessment. They're doing fine. They still have their monarchy. They're still pretty stable. And perhaps they're going to walk away from this whole cultural phenomenon in a much, I guess, healthier way. Maybe they'll survive more. Maybe they'll have more of their traditions. Um, and there's a reason for that, and that's because they knew when to stop. I think the Americans are going to have a very rude awakening if they don't give up. That's what I'm saying. And letting the barbarians in through the gates, right? So we have to talk about two different things, right? The Romans had to deal with the Visigoths. They had to deal with all these Germanic tribes. Who are the Americans letting in? Well, first of all, it's very obvious. From the south, they're letting in all these South Americans come in through the border, right? And that's one. And you might say, well, they're not really barbarians. They're not cave people. And I never said they're cave people, but they don't care about the American experiment. They're here for the free jobs. They're here for the easy money. They're here for a little bit more freedom, which fair enough, right? But the reality is that they're not being vetted to see if they're concerned about American culture, American way of life, many of them don't even speak English properly, right?
Because culture does have value, and the reason why countries have borders is because different countries have different values and ideology, and you want to make sure that those separations are made clear. But if you just have open borders and letting everyone in, which with different ideologies and different cultures, and then that culture and ideology is going to get corrupted, and then it just collapses.
Exactly, bingo, you got it. But we also have another problem, right? Which is Islam. Islam is a big problem in the United States. They're the actual barbarians. And obviously, individual Muslims, they can be very, very nice people. Don't get me wrong. This has nothing to do with any individual Muslim. It has to do with Islam as an ideology. It's very obvious to anyone who has paid any attention to Islam as a religion, knows that Islam is not exactly a progressive force through society. It made a little bit of progress in the Arabian Peninsula when it first started, but to be fair, like you can only really go up from like pagan Arabs, so it wasn't that wasn't very surprising. But once it kind of did what it was supposed to do in pagan Arabia, it really has become a retrograde force in society, especially over the past, I don't know, I want to say 100 years, 200 years. It's not exactly, a forward thinking force. Um, just to give you an idea of where we're at, in the olden days, we used to the Marines are called the Leathernecks. And the reason they're called the Leathernecks is because they would fight the Berber pirates who were Muslims, and the Muslim pirates would go for the necks. Therefore, they gave them leather armor on their necks to protect them from swords of these Muslim pirates.
That's super interesting.
That's why you got to learn history, my friend. That's why you have to study history. But now
All
we're,
right.
but now we tolerate Islam in America with no problems. Now we have Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib in Congress, right? And there's a reason for that. It's because you know Americans have gotten weak. And ultimately, a lot of these problems come from the idea that we have lost our way, right? I mean, think about it this way, right? I was reading a lot of the later prophets, right? So you talked about Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and there's something very, very, very interesting that you'll see, right? You'll see at the beginning, like Joshua, Judges. Yeah, the people fell. The people were not doing their job. But for the most part, they believed in what they were doing. They believed in their society. And so when they screwed up, God was sent a prophet saying, like, oh, this is a problem. You need to fix this problem. Otherwise, your enemies are going to invade you, whatever. But eventually they repented. And then there was a leader who came and saved them. But as time went on, that wasn't good enough, because it's very easy to pass on the physical structure of tradition, but it's very hard to pass on the emotional aspect of it, right? How many people in the United States know how powerful the 4th of July is? How many people understand that?
Probably not many. Why? What do you mean by like so powerful? I mean, I guess including myself, don't understand that. So, what do you mean by that?
I mean that the concept of fighting against an empire and fighting for your rights as a citizen, right? And think about how powerful the United States is as a concept. It was the first country in the world founded on an idea that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed in them. I forget the exact language, but they're endowed in them by their creator certain inalienable rights, including which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And that you have the right to no taxation without representation, certain ideas. And those were the foundation of America. It wasn't any ethnic kind of thing. There were all sorts of people here from different ethnicities, and we've become an ethnic melting pot. But we have ideas. We have a kind of civic religion, right? And that religion is liberty, right? That the government's supposed to represent you, that your government's supposed to serve you. You don't serve your government, right? We fought against a mercantilist empire, and people don't quite understand how powerful it is. That's why, like, maybe on the 4th of July, the more patriotic Americans will go kind of do a barbecue, go to the beach, and some less patriotic Americans will talk about how Americans stole the land from the indigenous people, whatever that means. But no one really quite understands how powerful these ideas are, and very few people kind of get it. And so you see this also in the olden days, like they went to the Israelites went to the temple, they gave their sacrifices, but it didn't matter because they didn't understand the true meaning of these rituals, right? They didn't understand it. Their social fabric was destroyed. The outside looked good, but the inside was destroyed. Think about America nowadays, right? We have a president. We go through all the rituals. We appoint the president. We do this. We do that. But think about how crazy it was that there was a doubt in people's minds about the 2020 election, right? Contrasted with 2000, where there was a small doubt in election in Florida, and they spent days dealing with it, counting it, sitting there and recounting and recounting. And think about in 2020, half the country thought that the election, there was something crazy about the election. There were all these things. And we didn't take democracy seriously as a concept. We took democracy as a ritual we go through. Okay, so every 4 years we pick the president and we do this, and this is what happens. And okay, so you have a problem. Okay, who cares? This is a problem. Who cares if no one believes that Joe Biden won the presidency? Who cares? We're doing this as a ceremony, but we all know Joe Biden needs to be the president. We're doing this to placate the gods of democracy. As if the gods of democracy are real things and they want you to, go vote, but they don't want you to think about what you're voting and what the procedures are, and they don't want you to understand anything. Right? Think about how corrupt our elite class is. Think about how corrupt the elite class were in Rome, right? The reason why they deposed Nero, you know who Nero is? He was one of the emperors in Rome. He appointed his horse to be in the Senate, and he just spent all day being a degenerate. That reminds you of someone, doesn't it? Certain what was his name? The son of Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, being a degenerate. Right, that's correct. Right. I don't know. I'm reminded of these people when I think about America and I think about these things. And listen, I don't know if America's going to fall. I don't know if America's going to stop being a world power, like the video that Graham Stephan said. Who knows? History is a weird thing. You never know what's going to happen. But it is important to point these things out because, when the prophets came to the ancient Israelites and they said, repent or else Jerusalem's going to be sacked, right? And you're going to be sent into exile and ancient Judah is going to be destroyed, right? The people thought, nothing bad can happen to us. We're the Israelites. The temple's right there. No, you can't save yourself from your own sins. You can't save yourself from that. The only way to save yourself from moral decay is to uplift yourself. But people find that very difficult. And so we're going to see what happens if the Americans don't repent and don't become more serious people. We're going to see. If in 2022 the Democrats decide to put in more, they decide to put their people in again, we're going to see what's going to happen if America keeps on going on in this way. I don't know. I don't want America to fall. I like American values, but,
Seems like that's the direction it's going.
Well, it's very hard to stop a downward spiral. Anyone who's watched a friend kind of fall into the dumpster for whatever reason knows that it's very hard to stop a downward spiral. You have to be aware that it's happening, and you have to want it to stop, and you have to have the values that allow it to stop. And it doesn't look like that's going on. Anyways, speaking of downward spirals into moral degeneracy, talk about a segue. We're going to talk about something that I don't think I'm supposed to talk about. I think because I looked it up, I'm probably on some FBI watch list. or worse, knowing America, I'm probably not on some FBI watch list, which is even more concerning. Than at least if I was on some FBI watch list, it means that they're doing their jobs over at the FBI. As disturbing as
you came across this article, you're one of us now. So
yeah, you're yeah. So let's you'll understand why when we talk about the topic about this moral degeneracy. So I have a question for you, Rody. I have a question for you. What is so sexy about sexy summer camp?
Well, if you didn't give me a description and just gave me the title of that itself, I would probably be very. I mean, it would sound pretty sexy to me.
I don't know. Here's the thing: some things just don't need to be sexy. not everything needs a sexy Halloween costume version of itself. I know the internet made a rule that says everything needs to have a sexy version of it, that everything needs to be turned into a porn. But we don't need to live in that world. We can have a world where some things are not made sexy. And one of those things I feel is summer camp when you go as a kid and,
Yeah,
at
no,
the most,
especially if it's for kids, then like you definitely shouldn't.
right, which is precisely the problem with this camp that was literally called Sexy Summer Camp that we were informed of on Twitter by a man named Christopher Rufo, who apparently is kind of this how do I say, whistleblower, I guess. And you see these people, these very, very unattractive women, very, very overweight, the type of people who you're shocked have ever had sex. And it's not just because they're fat, right? I'm sure you've met fat ladies who are married and they have like a nice, beautiful family. Maybe they're like on the short side and they look like they could be a really, really great abuela, right, or something like that. But we're talking about these people who look like the human version of a venereal disease. They
Like
look
their
like
hair is a different color and stuff like that.
they look like herpes had a child and sent that child down to earth.
Oh my god.
I know I'm terrible, but these people are teaching these kids about masturbation, BDSM, sex while on drugs, and other things that children are not supposed to be learning. What are the age of these children, Rody? Well, how old were these children that were being taught these things?
I don't know.
Okay, so let's go over this because I want to go over this article, right? So, this is the article. I got this from the Post Millennial, right? Sexy summer camp led by which, comma, it's not in the title, the comma, teaches children to masturbate, promotes sex work. The camp featured classes like Sex with Me, Self-Pleasure Workshop, which teaches participants how to make the most out of their masturbation experience, and featured hands-on practice on a person's hands. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, these people need Jesus. Oh, my God. Oh, I bet it was hands-on. Anyways, so I bet it was hands-on. Oh, God. A virtual summer camp aimed at people of all ages in the rural Appalachia region of the eastern U.S. has been revealed to have taught people, including children, about masturbation, gender diversity, self-managed
like, don't they learn
abortions.
this stuff in like health class? So why make a camp out of it?
Also, what makes this camp? If it's online, it's not camp. Camp, you go like somewhere and you live in the woods, right? This is not camp. This is just a seminar. This is just class
How
and everything.
how long is each class?
I don't know, whatever. But they including children about masturbation, gender diversity, self-managed abortions. That's a new one, and more over the summer of 2021. So this happened last summer. The Sexy Summer Camp put on by Sexy Sex Ed. Nothing sexy about sex ed. If you've ever been to a normal sex ed class, there's nothing sexy about sex ed. It's like all about cells and shit. Like there's nothing sexy about sex ed. Was held in July and August of late last year on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That means that people tuned in to like virtual class about these degenerate topics, right? Sexy Sex Ed puts on workshops that they say compels teenagers and people of all ages to openly discuss personal and political consent. What is political consent, Rody? What the hell does that mean?
Not parental consent, but probably government consent.
What does that
Or
mean? What does that
I don't
mean?
know.
Exactly. That's it. That's an interesting word. Keep an eye out for that one. See if we ever see that again. Sexual safety and anatomy. Using visual and performance art, open dialogue, and popular education methods, Sexy Sex Ed fills a vital gap in reproductive education as a creative, cultural healing solution in rural Appalachia. Yes, because I'm sure those rural Appalachian people were like, we don't have enough child grooming. We don't have that in Appalachia. We need more of that. Screenshots of the 2021 summer camp were posted to Twitter featuring classes like Sex with Me, Self-Pleasure Workshop, which teaches participants how to make the most out of their masturbation experience, and featured hands-on practice, which they clarified would be literally on a person's hands, which, oh God, that's disgusting. To risk a lurid image. Another session was simply titled Sex on Drugs and said that participants would explore the nuances of engaging in sexual activity while using licit and illicit drugs. Oh, that's great. He's great.
Lovely.
Okay, so Rody, did you open up the article? I want you to look at the women who
Yeah,
are
yeah, I
here.
see, I see.
Okay, so do these women they really don't look like they've had too much sexual experience because I can't see anyone having sex with them. Like I really
Um,
can't.
all right. I mean,
Would you
well,
have sex with them, Rody? Would you have?
no,
Okay, there we go. See.
but I guess people with not very high standards would.
Oh, are you implying that I would sleep? Because I have very low standards, and I would not even sleep with these women. These are the type of women that you would sooner put hot nails under your fingernails before you spend the night with them.
I don't know. Hot nails under your fingernails. I don't know. I wouldn't go that far because that's pretty painful.
Okay, so well, regardless, but these women are the human embodiment of syphilis. Anyways, so we're gonna go see the next tweet by Christopher Rufo. Here's the agenda for the camp. I'll be doing a more extensive report in the coming weeks, and so you see all these little different classes. Are you looking at this? You got gender diversity, take it out, relationship. Oh, talk it out. Sorry, I can't see. This is a very small print from my computer.
Thing is, it says here like being a sex worker isn't that illegal in almost all states?
It's not
Well, oh
illegal
no,
in
well,
Nevada.
sorry, sex workers also like online. It's not just in person.
No,
So
no. So you
no.
don't understand. If you go to a person and you say, "Here's $50 to have sex with me," that's illegal. But if you say to a person, "Here's $50 to have sex with me, let's record it," that's just pornography. That's
That's
legal.
true.
That's just So you don't understand, Rody. There's nuances here. Okay, there's nuances. Get with the times, man. Get with the times. Yeah. So that was listen. If you hate humanity, this is not going to help you with that. The summer camp featured a number of presenters, including trans activist Oliver Hall, who said they feel passionately about the spaces for gender euphoria in daily life, as well as specifically through sex, BDSM, and kink. What is gender euphoria? I don't know what gender euphoria is.
I guess being happy with the gender you choose.
Jesus Christ. Another presenter, Kirstine Uten, said she has a passion for fat and disability liberation.
I have no idea what that means.
I love how they always think that fat is like a community and not just like being lazy and eating too much. The founder of Sexy Sex Ed was revealed to be Tanya Turner, who said she was raised in rural Kentucky by a host of witchy women in a coven like mountain matriarchy. Oh, I bet you were. Video posted to Twitter by journalist Christopher Rufo revealed Turner saying that she recommends teaching masturbation to people at a very young age. That's how we should, like get down with yourself, explore your own body. Masturbation is really healthy, and I recommend it to people of all ages. All ages. As soon as my nephews could talk, they were doing that. That's what they were doing. Kids touch themselves. Kids start to ask questions, and we teach them the language for their bodies, right? Turner said. Oh my God. Ugh. I want to throw up. Anyways, so this article goes on for like another couple of paragraphs. But that's listen. This is obviously degeneracy. Everyone is kind of this story broke out towards the beginning of the week, so no one really like said anything that I think I disagree with. However, I will point this out, and this needs to be pointed out. I feel kind of gross thinking about this. I remember there was a time when I was a teenager and I thought, like sex would be awesome, right? Sex is going to be really cool. I can't wait to have sex, right? These people somehow make sex the least sexy thing on the planet.
Well, because I think it comes down to this: like, oh well, you can be supportive of sex and other things, but don't go like shoving it down people's throats.
You know what it is? I was thinking about it today, actually. This is what it is. You remember in Mean Girls when Regina George was having sex with that, teenager, not the love interest of Lindsay Lohan, the other one who she uses to make Lindsay Lohan's love interest jealous. You remember that guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're having sex, and Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec walks in. That's the lady who plays Regina George's mom. And she walks in and says, "Hey guys, she's trying to be like the cool mom. She's like, "Hey, do you guys need anything? You guys need any snacks? You guys need any condoms?" And I remember Regina George. She's like, "Get out of here, mom!" Right? And it's kind of like when authority figures try to make sex cool, and they try to like, I guess, de-taboo it. It becomes not cool.
Yeah.
It's like it's the difference between you liking a girl and walking up to her and your mom saying, "Hey, you know what? I have a great girl for you," right? It's the difference between those two things. It's kind of like if you find the girl, there's a certain element of like, oh, it's kind of cool, you know, because I met this girl, whatever. When your mom brings you a girl, or like your mom knows someone, it's kind of like you roll your eyes.
God, I
It's like,
hate it when that happens.
because your mom may as well be saying like, yeah, this girl is not really for you because we're gonna really like her, and that's, you know, and that's not fun. You kind of almost don't want your parents to like them because, you know.
I mean, yes and no. I mean,
No, obviously, like you do, but I'm just saying, like, there's a certain element of like if your parents introduce you to the girl, it's kind of lame. Like there's a certain element of lame to this, and I guess that's what this is. You know, they are trying to kind of make sex kind of boring, so that, I don't know, like this is very boring. In addition to the grooming, in addition to the how messed up it is that they're teaching sex to kids, they're making it boring. They're making it like even the most demented things that, like, you know, people think are like kind of edgy. They're trying to make it so that you're not interested in it anymore, and that's what this kind of is. So there's nothing sexy about sexy summer camp. Yeah. So
but
I don't know.
band camp.
No,
Is a different
Bandcamp is
story.
Don't get me started on Bandcamp. That is a veritable. That is a, you can't even talk about it because, you know, Bandcamp's for kids. But, you know, when I was a kid, American Pie, that was great. Anyways, so let's talk about other inappropriate things that authority figures are telling us. Right. So you remember, you know how like the gas prices are getting higher?
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't notice that gas prices are getting higher.
Yeah,
This is news to me.
Yeah, the gas prices are getting pretty
I'm
high.
kidding.
Yeah, well, they're getting as high as Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan Experience. That's how high they're getting. Yeah, so in recognition of the gas prices getting very high, our esteemed leaders are telling us that we should all just buy Teslas. Rody, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of just to buy a Tesla? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I feel like such an idiot now. Jesus, no wonder they're in charge and I'm doing a podcast. Because I didn't, in my stupid podcast brain, I didn't realize, oh, if gas prices are going up, I should just buy a Tesla. If I'm working for $30,000 a year and I don't have money to afford the gas prices that you guys are hiking up because you're stealing all my money from me by inflating the currency so I have nothing to show for it, right? I should just buy a Tesla with $60,000.
Yeah, we should buy a car we can't afford.
Exactly, and hike up our electric bill.
And hike up our electric bill. Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyways, so let's you know, I feel like we're in the French Revolution, and Pete Buttigieg is standing there from a balcony, and he's saying, "Let them buy electric cars." Sir, the peasants are complaining that the gas prices are too. Let them buy. Let them buy electric cars. Anyways, if you get that reference, I don't think you do.
I don't.
Yeah, so there's you know, the queen, you know, the king of France got executed in the French Revolution. The monarchy was abolished,
yeah,
very violently, I might add.
Yeah.
And so the queen at the time, her name was Marie Antoinette, and in a kind of apocryphal story, she when she was told that the peasants had nothing to eat, like they had no bread, she said, "Let them eat cake," and that was considered like a very like out of touch statement for the royalty to make. Like they don't have cake, right? Because they're, you know, they're peasants. They're peasants, yeah. Exactly. You know, so, you know, that's what Pete Buttigieg's telling us to buy an electric car is like. Anyways, so the gas prices are rising, and it's being blamed on Putin because we need a bad guy. And Putin is very obviously that bad guy, despite the fact that gas prices have been going up ever since Trump left office. Almost immediately after Trump left office.
Yeah, but just not at such a fast rate.
Okay, but it's not like $3 a gallon is any better than like, it's $3 a gallon, $4 a gallon is still very bad. It's not $7 a gallon, yes, but you shouldn't get to the point where gas becomes $4 a gallon because then anything can exacerbate it to $7, right? Okay, so whatever, they're blaming it on Putin. Okay, whatever, the establishment's gonna
Well,
establishment.
I
Okay.
do know that Russian gas is 13% of U.S. import of gas. So, because of the war, I mean, yeah, it will definitely affect gas prices.
Okay, but here's the problem, Rody. I'm gonna give a rough estimate here. I know that Russian gas is 13% of U.S. consumption. If I were to make a projection here, I would say that Russian gas, if I were the president of the United States, Russian gas would be approximately between 0% and 0% of U.S. gas. You know what would be 100% of U.S. gas? U.S. gas. That would be 100% of U.S. gas, right? So that's what 100% of U.S. gas should come from America, maybe through Canada. Maybe through Canada.
I mean, Canada is actually one of the largest.
Right, but
It's
America also has some resources, but even then, getting our resources from Canada is not the same as getting them from Russia, okay? It's not the same. It's very obviously. Anyways, so Colbert on his show, because, Stephen Colbert, man of the people, said that he doesn't care about the gas prices because he drives a Tesla. He's willing to fight Putin. He's willing to pay $4, $5 a gallon because, he's not paying $4, $5 a gallon because he drives a Tesla. You
You're
pleb.
right.
You pleb. Anyways, so, and then, like I said before, Pete Buttigieg tells Americans to buy an electric car with the money the government is stealing from them. Because unlike, progressive taxes, income taxes, property taxes, which are taxes on people with resources, inflation is a tax on people without resources. This is one of the reasons, by the way, why poor people tend to have very bad monetary habits, and that is because the government tends to inflate their currency. So any poor person who makes the wise decision to put some money away knows that his money is not going to be worth anything, especially if the government's printing money, right? His money's not
Yeah.
going to be your money is worth more now than it will be in the future. And if you want to live in a country with any sort of staying power, you don't want people to think that. You want people to think that if they put their money in a savings account, it will be worth more when they take it out.
I mean, I think because there's also tax incentives given to people that buy electric vehicles.
But
So
again, you're talking about people who may not have money to buy electric vehicles.
you're right, but you can also finance the vehicles also. Most people who buy cars, usually, I mean, a lot more people lease cars nowadays. So they're already paying a monthly fee. And also, a lot of people will finance the car. They won't buy it all in one shot.
I do not know how some people buy cars. Some people buy like a $2,000 car off a used lot. Some people do not have the money to finance a car. Because remember, to finance a car, you need to have a certain amount of income each month, right? How much does it cost to lease a car each month? How much does it cost to lease a
Um,
Tesla?
Average, I mean, the lower end is 200 to 300, maybe 300 at this point.
What, a Tesla?
We're talking about leasing a regular. I'm talking about leasing a regular car, not a
Okay, but
Tesla.
remember, you're leasing a Tesla because they want us to buy electric cars now. So,
No, a Tesla would probably be more.
right. So you'd have to have whatever amount of money each month to blow on a car. A lot, like we lived in a very affluent neighborhood, but remember, there are people who, like, when their first car comes, it's a car off the used lot that they can use for many years. That was my first car. I didn't get a brand new Mercedes Benz. I got a two when I was in school, right, in the United States. This was like in 2013. I got a 2002 Acura, right? Acura, whatever it was.
You're right.
Now, when the Acura came out, it was a very nice car, and for a starter car, it was a really nice car. I'm not complaining, but my parents didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. Like they
You're right.
spent
But
like a couple
even used
thousand.
cars are now going through the roof also. But even though yeah, electric cars are more expensive, you could be end up saving money, in other aspects like yeah, with gases and also with maintenance. But but you're right, you can't afford it in the first place, so it doesn't really matter.
But you can't afford it in the first place. And remember, you have to charge the car. So unless you leave your car at a place where you could charge it for free, remember you
like
have to
at home, essentially.
But then your electric bill goes up, so you haven't saved anything. You
Well,
aren't
I don't
paying.
know. I don't know the difference. I don't know how much more it's charging you compared to the gas you would be spending on a car, like per month.
Right,
I don't know the difference between the two.
but then you also have to remember that if, let's say, everyone decides to get an electric car, right? Where does the electricity come from?
Yeah, it comes from a power plant.
Right, and what do they use to generate that power? They're not generating it on unicorn farts, right?
No,
No, like
unfortunately,
seriously.
no. No unicorn farts.
Right.
As much as I would want.
Right. So okay. So then let's think this through. They're not doing nuclear because the climate industry wants us to use solar or wind energy, whatever. So we're not using nuclear, right? And
We don't
solar
have
and
nuclear fusion yet.
nuclear
So.
fission would be fine. It's very easy to maintain. It's like,
No,
yeah,
I'm
it's
saying we
not
don't have. I'm saying fusion. Nuclear fusion we don't have yet.
right. But nuclear fission is also really good. Like it's still way better for the environment than coal or wind or whatever. Wind is actually pretty bad for the environment. It causes people headaches. It kills birds. It doesn't work all the time. Nuclear would solve a lot of problems, even if it was fission, right? But that we're not going in that direction, right? And we can't use solar or wind because that stuff doesn't work. That's like more individual and it's kind of location based. So the answer would be we'd have to use fossil fuels. But if there's more demand on electricity because everyone is using electricity to power their cars now, you're just shifting the bill from the gas pump to the electric plug. You're not really and now there's more demand, so it costs more. The finances don't work here.
All right.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have like a math or calculator or a piece of paper on me
it's not
to
about the math or
really
the
do the
calculator
math.
because these are all theoretical numbers. We can't calculate a theoretical, right? I'm just pointing out that as the demand for electric, if let's say they did what we wanted them to, let's say we did what they wanted us to do. We all bought electric cars, right? The amount of energy we'd need would go up, and therefore the price would go up because the demand is up. Those are the rules of economics. I don't make the rules.
You don't make the rules?
I wish I did. What do you think? If I made the rules, do you think I would allow Joe Biden to be the president?
No.
And there we go. See there now we're thinking with our big brain and not with our little brain. Anyways, so even Elon Musk is saying we need more local energy production. You saw that tweet by Elon Musk. He said
What do you say?
We need to ramp up gas and oil production in the United States to counter the Russians. Right? Everyone's talking about what we can do to end the war, and everyone's saying like we need to go, we need to do this, we need to sanction, we need to do this, we need to stop the Russians from looking at porn. Right? The one thing that would stop the Russians instantly, the Biden administration is not willing to do. Right? So, like, I don't want to go into Ukraine, right? But I would be willing to start up American gas production and oil production to stop the Russians to kind of take the wind out of their sails. I'd be very happy to do that. And there's no reason we can't, except for our president is, I don't even know why. I don't even know what the reason.
Because maybe he's looking at it this way, like what's more threatening, Putin or the possible climate change that could be caused by ramping up more oil production? Like if you're trying to get rid of oil production because of climate change, then you don't want to, even if there's a war between Russia and Ukraine, you don't want to go back on progress because of a little setback from another country.
Right, but from what I understand, American gas is like cleaner than Russian gas anyways. Probably because we have a higher standard, probably because we produce in a more clean and sustainable way. But also like whatever, who cares? We're using electricity, we're using this fuel source. We have to use it. There's no option. We need to make ourselves poor because of the sun god. Sorry, you're gonna have to miss me with that. Right? And the thing is that Elon Musk, by the way, the Biden administration is telling everyone to buy an electric car, but they're snubbing Elon Musk. Did you see that article I sent you about how they keep on snubbing Tesla and Elon Musk? They're talking about General Motors and Ford, but they never talk about Tesla. Because Elon Musk is the bad based weed smoking man from the internet.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Biden administration is refusing to ramp up oil production in the United States, which would solve a lot of problems. But again, I think the primary reason they're not doing it is because then people say, "Oh, Trump was right," and Biden can't be seen agreeing with his predecessor. Because on day one, Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. Day one.
That's true.
Day one. So if he goes back, it'll be like, yeah, there was no reason to switch. We didn't need to switch parties. We didn't need to switch presidents. It's just now Biden is not tweeting like an idiot. But I like a mean tweet. I like my $1.75 gas with a mean tweet. I'll take that. And if there was ever a time to eat the rich, that time's now. I don't know. Listen, a lot of conservatives, they spent the last 10 years defending billionaires and defending the rich and defending the wealthy. And I understand where they're coming from because, our enemies were the socialists and they were doing this. The reality is that we have a different, I don't have a problem with the billionaire class existing. I have a problem with them forgetting which side their bread is buttered on. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of the elite selling us out to China. I'm sick and tired of the elite telling us, oh, just buy the expensive thing. Just consume the product. And when you're done consuming this product, we have another product for you.
Because they look at the short term and they're greedy instead of the long term, which is another reason why the U.S. is on the decline, because countries like Japan and South Korea and all these other countries, always look at the long term. They don't look at the short term and why they're getting ahead. So it's the same reason, because the rich here are short-sighted and greedy.
Exactly. And listen, when we do eventually rise up against our oligarch class, by the way, no one is talking about this. What is the difference between a Russian oligarch and an American billionaire? Nothing.
I don't know.
Nothing. Just how you spell it. No real difference. Bill Gates is our Roman. What's his name? Roman Abramovich. We have a bunch of oligarchs here in the United States. Guys like Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. We got these people, and they're dictating public policy, and they function outside the law. And they tell us things like, why don't you just buy an electric car? I don't understand. Single mother of two. Why don't you just take the money that you were going to spend on food and rent to just live in a Tesla? Why don't you just stay indoors?
Thank you. I didn't think of that.
Why don't you just stay indoors and just work from home at your service job?
Yeah, we're all in the same boat together.
And we're all in the same boat. Just stay in your little dinky apartment, and I'll stay in my big mansion with my swimming pool. We're all in this together. We have to stay at home. It could save lives. Don't you understand? Gosh. Ugh. It's so frustrating when the plebs don't understand. And so eventually we, the plebs, are going to rise up against these people, and there will be mass carnage. People will literally be eating Jeff Bezos because they will have nothing to eat. Because Jeff Bezos will have stolen our jobs, sold us out to China. Not just Jeff Bezos, all of them, right? Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, right? I don't know. I'm kind of down for some, rich people stew. I kind of like the idea of that. I'm down to eat the rich now. I'm cool.
All right.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Well, you want to join me in that? Let's eat the rich.
Thanks for the invite.
No, I think we should. No, honestly, I think we should eat the rich. I don't know. I'm kind of sick and tired of them.
And with that, all right, that's our show. Please smash that like button, share the video with our friends, and subscribe to our channel. We are also available on your favorite podcast platforms. You can reach out to us by DMing us at the right side of the compass on Instagram, or by commenting on our videos. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we look forward to you joining us next time.